So, it's been a while since I've done one of these, maybe a month. I took a bit of a hiatus because I was doing other things. Went on a couple of trips, worked on some other projects, finishing up the third book. And I kind of ran out of shit to talk about that I thought would be meaningful and worthy of people's time and attention because I've said most things that need to have been said in one form or another. But as the world keeps spinning and the days keep on turning, more bullshit arises in this space that I feel the responsibility to at least share my 2 cents and debunk some of this nonsense that continues to perpetuate the interwebs. And although this is inevitable to some degree because people will have opinions and people will spout nonsense as they always have, I previously wrote a book debunking a bunch of what I think are the most critical myths in the space. And if I were to write that book again now, these are the ones that I would add to that. So I'm going to go through 3 today, and to save you the time and effort of watching a video to find out what those 3 things are if they don't interest you, I'm going to speak about Enclomiphene. I'm going to speak about Pregnenolone and DHEA as testosterone boosters. And finally, I am going to speak on one that I have spoken about before, but I'm going to reiterate because this one continues to grind my gears, is that TRT somehow necessitates the need to replicate the physiology of a first trimester pregnant woman, i.e. using HCG with TRT. And I'm going to keep it to 15 minutes. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, depending on how much time I have left on each of these topics. So number 1, Enclomiphene. It baffles me to the degree that which people will avoid taking bioidentical testosterone in order to increase their bioidentical testosterone levels. Baffles me. People will take Nigerian shrubs that cause testicular toxicity in rats, which will never be approved for human trials, called Phaedosia agrestis, because some guy with a bunch of YouTube followers said it was safe and lied through his teeth about it to sell you a bunch of crap that you don't need that may even do you harm in the long term. We'll wait and see. But the other one is Enclomiphene, and Enclomiphene is a spliced version of Clomid. It is half of clomiphene citrate, the other half being zooclomiphene. And for those who are into pharmacology, you'll be familiar with isomers, but an example that people might be familiar with is Adderall, which is a mix of levoamphetamine and dexamphetamine, which are left and right isomers. You've got armodafinil, which is an isomer of modafinil. And this is basically splitting a molecule in 2 to get half the effects. And there's a bunch of conclusions that people have jumped to, assuming that zooclomiphene is the cause of all the problems that come with Clomid, which mechanistically is likely untrue. But this idea that Enclomiphene can act as a way to have your cake to eat it too, to be able to increase testosterone without needing to use testosterone, is a good example of, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And what I have found is that despite there being no safety efficacy data for the use of Enclomiphene as a hormone replacement therapy agent in men, very little safety and efficacy data on Clomid in men, and the safety data is terrible, people continue to perpetuate this, I believe, for the purpose of being contrarian. I believe people want to be the person who solved the problem rather than actually wanting to solve the problem itself as a primary motive. I think people want attention more than they want to actually help men in this space. But most importantly, I see people who care more about internet clout and reinventing the wheel than they do potentially inflicting side effects on men in this space. And I think that that is absolutely crap. If Enclomiphene simply blocked the estrogen receptors in the hypothalamus, it may be something that would work long term. Would it potentially cause long-term neurotoxicity to the hypothalamus? I mean, probably, but I don't think people really seem to give a fuck about that for some reason. But what this drug is doing is it's not just blocking the estrogen receptor in the hypothalamus, it's blocking it in a whole bunch of other places that we know cause harm from the data on Clomid. We know it causes vision issues. We know it causes fatty liver disease. I know this because I see guys come to me all the time as I have to unfuck them from these absolute fucking morons who continue to put them on this substance. But the most important part of this is it doesn't actually work to resolve people's symptoms long term. So not only is it not safe, not only is it not evidence-based, not only is it not studied, not only is it mechanistic pseudoscience that people on internet forums have come up with, and now doctors and charlatans on the internet are actually recommending it or even prescribing it for their patients. But it doesn't fucking work. No one has ever come to me, and I've spoken to so many people, and I have put the word out to try to get some form of insight on this, and so have my colleagues. Where are the practitioners and providers who've got the receipts to show, hey, I've got a whole cohort of guys, not just an N=1. I've got a bunch of guys who've been on Enclomiphene, their levels have boosted, they're doing great, they've resolved their symptoms, they have no side effects. Where are they? They don't exist. So why people keep signing up for this is because it's this idea that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And maybe, and this leads into my second point, doctors are prescribing this because they feel pressured, which if they feel pressured by their patients, they need to get a fucking reality check on what their job is. Or maybe they feel obliged, or maybe they just want to make a sale and make some commission on some bullshit commission structure that they have in place in their clinic, so that when a patient comes to them and they don't quite qualify for TRT, that they can sell them something or prescribe them something and send them on their way. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe someone in the comments can enlighten me. And that leads me to the next topic, which is that Pregnenolone and DHEA can be prescribed for men with borderline low testosterone levels as testosterone boosters. And I wrote a book on this. I've done a lecture on this. It's called Beyond TRT. You can watch the free version on YouTube, or you can download the $29 ebook from my website. The information is exactly the same. Backfilling the pathways is a asinine notion in hormone replacement therapy that the steroidogenic cascade illustrative diagram is some kind of literal river that hormones flow down like a Mario game or some shit like that. If it was that simple, we could just give everyone pregnenolone and optimize all their hormones. It doesn't work like that. So the idea that you can take someone who's got suboptimal testosterone levels and doesn't quite qualify or need TRT, or the juice doesn't work, is not worth the squeeze to shut down the natural production, but we can go, okay, here's some pregnenolone and DHEA, which are precursors for testosterone, and this will boost your testosterone level. Not only does that not work to any kind of clinical degree, but it's actually going to cause side effects, because now you're going to create supraphysiological levels of DHEA and its direct metabolites, but you're also going to jack up progesterone via pregnenolone, which is going to not only act as an androgen receptor antagonist, but it's also going to act as a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, reducing DHT. And it doesn't work either. But unfortunately, people continue to do this, and it's not evidence-based. It's not even anecdotally based. It's just crap that's come from internet forums that has permeated into medicine for some reason. And the last one that I'm going to talk about here is this idea that TRT somehow creates the need for going on HCG. And I've covered this abundantly in other videos and in my book. I did a webinar on this. I've run clinical workshops on this. I've spoken about this ad nauseum. But somehow people are not able to grasp the common sense that if you inject a female pregnancy hormone into a male, a psychoactive female pregnancy hormone that permeates the blood-brain barrier, that they think that this is going to be a side effect-free treatment to stimulate the testicles as if it was bioidentical luteinizing hormone. This notion that not only is HCG a mimetic for luteinizing hormone, not only is it less similar to luteinizing hormone than it is the same. Yes, it activates the luteinizing hormone receptors in the testicles. What else does it do in men? We don't fucking know. No one knows. No one's looked into this. You guys are finding out. What's this going to do to guys long term? I don't know. The use of HCG alongside TRT was a hypothesis. And unfortunately, the gentleman who came up with the hypothesis has passed away. But were he alive today, I would suggest that there would be a good chance that he would have backpedaled on this hypothesis, as have many people over the recent years. Yet TRT continues to be augmented with HCG so that clinics can just upsell you another thing you don't need to double the profits per sale per patient. And it's causing people side effects, but it's also causing people a huge amount of confusion and problems because they're going, hang on, I'm on testosterone monotherapy. I feel fantastic. But now I've gone down some internet rabbit hole and I've created a bunch of problems that I didn't know I had. And fortunately, this guy's going to sell me some kind of solution. And then you take the solution and now you've got a bunch more problems. And now you go, oh, do I need an aromatase inhibitor? Do I need to modulate my dose? Why am I getting bloated and watery? Why am I feeling emotional? Why am I feeling anxious? Because you're injecting yourself with a female pregnancy hormone. Now, is testicular atrophy ideal? Is acquired organ failure ideal? Absolutely not. Is it more ideal to stimulate your testicles with female pregnancy hormone, which is causing you side effects and has completely unknown effects long term? Which one's the lesser of evils? Well, I can tell you what's evidence-based. If we look at every single study on TRT showing all the benefits of testosterone, every single study that's been done, none of them used HCG as an adjunct to achieve the outcomes. So if TRT creates this acquired hormone deficiency of all the upstream hormones, then why aren't we seeing all the problems in the testosterone monotherapy trials? Because it's a load of fucking nonsense. So with that said, if you'd like to read or hear about further myth busting, you can check out Beyond TRT. But what's the most important thing to do to take this knowledge and actually try to work it out? And I was speaking to a client the other day about this. And back when I started TRT, one of the problems was a real lack of information in the space. There was Jay Campbell's book, and Jay Campbell's a good friend of mine. His book is fantastic, and so are his podcasts. But that was it. But fortunately, at least the information Jay was putting out was correct. So there wasn't much info out there, but at least it was right. Now we're in a situation where the majority of the information on TRT online is absolutely false. And this is leading to, well, I mean, it keeps me in business because at least I get to run a business of fixing these issues. But it leads to a huge amount of confusion. It leads to a huge amount of pain and suffering. And it leads to an already difficult process just becoming that much more difficult. So when you're looking for a provider, look for a provider who practices evidence-based TRT. Look for someone who's actually following the evidence. Don't let yourself be the guinea pig to find out how these things are going to work out down the line. Follow the evidence-based processes and let the other people be the guinea pig. Don't ever, if the last 4 years have taught you anything, don't ever be an early adopter for experimental medications, especially Enclomiphene. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't risk your health. Don't risk the long-term effects. And don't end up having to book in a consultation with me to fix the fatty liver disease, to fix the hormone dysfunction, and to inevitably have to go on TRT anyway to fix the problems that shouldn't have been created in the first place due to a provider who was following advice off Reddit rather than out of PubMed. Hope that helps.